in colleges at a rapid rate.
An NYU professor says fewer men going to college will lead to a mating crisis, with the U.S. producing too many broke and alone men.
This is really not good for society. Like it or not, a 4-year college degree is required for entry to the upper echelon of America.
Women with college degrees don't want to partner with men who don't have a college degree.
The mating inequality that's going to come out of this dearth of men in college poses an existential risk to our economy and our society.
As women continue to excel in education and the workplace alike, an ever-increasing number of the male population are withdrawing. In the last 10 years, the number of men between the ages of 18 and 30 reporting no sex in the last year has tripled. And the worrying thing is that this could so easily lead to a violent storm.
The most dangerous person in the world is a broke and a lone male, and we are producing too many of them.
The future for relationships between men and women is starting to look bleak.
If men don't kill themselves, they're exiting education and society and family life at the highest rates ever. Women are frantically pursuing careers only to discover that they're unable to find a partner that they're attracted to and then jump on meds at 40 years old. And then the people who want kids can't find a partner that does as well. Birth rates declining, faith in the leaders and the news organizations non-existent, and everyone's just about sufficiently sedated not to notice or care that it's going on.
That's a precise and accurate summary of how the West has declined and will collapse, yes.
Fuck.
How did we arrive at this point?
Yeah, so that's a mouthful. So yeah, so it's like one thing that I have been saying for the longest though, like a man has to campaign and get elected to get sex. A woman doesn't have to do anything to get sex. So women control access to sex, and men control access to relationships. So yeah, so a lot of the guys aren't getting it, you know. So and then yeah, just like they said, it's dangerous when a guy hasn't had sex and he doesn't have money, and then it leads to him to be angry, and all kind of things can happen.
In the not too distant past, marriage preceded sex, and young women were sold by their families to eligible men of equal or superior social status. These young women had little say in the matter, and once they were married, they remained dependent on their husband's earnings until they died. The lives of both men and women were extremely tough. Most men suffered grueling days in the fields, earning very little money, and most women suffered grueling days in the home, earning no money. Women tended to their children, but also to domestic duties, which back then were far more difficult and time-consuming. The technologies we take for granted today, like the vacuum cleaner, electric washing machine, dishwasher, and so on, had yet to come to humanity's aid. Even when the Industrial Revolution was in full swing, many households, especially those in rural areas, still didn't have running tap water. But everything changed in the 20th century. In the United States, the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, ratified in the year of 1920, permitted women the right to vote, and a series of technological advancements followed, which began to turn the tide. Chief among these developments were the electric washing machine and the birth control pill.
The introduction of the pill caused a tremendous social shift. Unmarried women were able to have sex without getting pregnant, which is enormously significant because you didn't have to get married to have sex, or you didn't have to risk an abortion.
Control.
So yeah, so what I did was they actually lowered the price for sex. So guys are saying, okay, so now people before was getting married to be able to have regular sex. Now the guys didn't have to get married and they can get regular sex without having to get married. So that changed everything too.
Over the reproductive process in particular meant that women were free to pursue educational and economic success for the first time in history. Marriage became a matter of choice as opposed to a social or economic necessity. By 1970, 50% of single women and 40% of married women were participating in the labor force, and 1981 was the last year that more men than women graduated from a 4-year undergraduate program. Now, 60 years after the release of the birth control pill, young women are steaming ahead. In the UK, women in their 20s earn, on average, $1,100 more per annum than their male counterparts, and they're doing way better than men on the educational front.
What's happened is that males have fallen rapidly behind females at every stage of the education system and in every advanced economy in the world. On pretty much every measure you can look at, girls are ahead of boys, and that's increasingly true even in subjects like math and science. Nobody predicted that once girls and women caught up with boys and men, that they would keep going, and that we would now have a bigger gender gap in higher education than we did 50 years ago, just the other way around.
After centuries of men dominating the economy, most of the job growth is in industries where women traditionally work, and those jobs require more education. The latest piece of data is that women are dominating college enrollment. In a few years, 2 women will earn a degree for every 1 man. In fairness, many young men are dodging.
But one thing that they're not saying is most of the women are getting degrees in careers like art and just stuff where pretty much it's not really helping out society. The men are going to school to get degrees in engineering. The women are getting degrees in like more easier, type of fun jobs. But they're not talking about that.
College with good reason.
The typical graduate of a 4-year university is going to walk into their first job with $26,000 in debt. And all too often, that college degree, which was supposed to promise a stable middle-class life, is falling far short of expectations. About a third of the nation's colleges leave students high and dry, earning less after obtaining their degree than the typical high school graduate 10 years after graduation. Somewhere around 40% of college grads are underemployed. That means they're working in jobs that do not actually require a 4-year degree.
But the fact remains that adults with a bachelor's degree earn an average of $2.8 million during their careers, 1.2 million more than the median for workers with a high school diploma.
Think about how many jobs that have nothing to do with college still require a degree. And from there, that's just the entry point. Media, economics, politics, law, business, almost all professional jobs today require a college degree. It's simply a bare minimum to even get a shot at competing.
Ultimately, it all depends on the individual college and student respectively. A declining male presence in higher education suggests that men are on the road to becoming less competitive in the economic sphere than before. And that's bad news for the dating market. Why? Because women are hypergamous, which means that they're biologically wired to select sexual partners who are as competent or more competent than they are. Hypergamy is a good thing, for if our female ancestors had been inclined to have sex with and reproduce with men who are unable to defend or acquire resources for them, our
Yeah, I want to say one thing to add to this too. Just like even myself, like I have associates in sales and marketing, but all of my top sales and marketing knowledge that I got, I had to pay a mentor, and he actually taught me more about sales and marketing than school. So yeah, and sales is also one of those careers that you actually don't have to go to school. You just have to be willing to outwork the other person and just have better selling skills and more knowledge. So sales, and I say what else? Other markets like sales or copywriting, different areas where it's high ticket, where you can charge more, and definitely a lot of women aren't getting into those type of careers because you have to put the work in. Like a lot of sales jobs are commission based, so if you don't produce, you're not going to get no money.
species probably would have died out a very long time ago. But see, the thing is, when women become the higher achieving sex in the social order, hypergamy prevents many men and women from finding suitable mates, because a large pool of women find attraction in only a very small pool of highly promising or successful men.
I just want to know why it is so hard to find a guy that I'm attracted to that isn't an asshole.
Where did all the good men go?
Can someone tell me where I can find a decent, loyal, funny, good-looking guy around here?
This reality is playing out on modern dating apps like Tinder. Data reveals that men swipe right on about 60% of female profiles, whereas women swipe right on only 4% of male profiles. On account of being scarcely available, these few desirable men are free to set the rules of the dating game, and as the renowned evolution...
Actually, I have to update that. So now, as of 2024, women swipe right only 1%. So that's going to be a whole nother video. So basically, what that means is if most guys like most women, while most women don't like most men. So that's what that means.
Psychologist David Buss said in 2015, research overwhelmingly shows that men harbor, on average, a greater desire for sexual partner variety.
So what you see, where there is a surplus of women and a scarcity of men, is more casual dating, because the men get to make the rules. If there are fewer men than there are women, the women have to compete, and the only way that they can compete is by playing the game that the men want.
This sexual paradigm has long been referred to as hookup culture, and it often sees attractive women moving from one short-term relationship.
And speaking of that, though, that's the other thing that I have noticed now in like the last few years. So now, because of this hookup culture, it's women out here that they haven't never ever been in a real relationship. They were just hooking up with guys for years and a long time. And then that's kind of scary, because then, okay, you have this good job, you have this career, but then if you haven't been in an actual real relationship, you haven't developed those skills of being able to compromise, being able to get along with a man. You haven't worked on those skills, so those skills are going to be very weak, and then you're going to have problem in the dating market long term. So yes, so that's the other issue that they're not talking about, though, that happens from this hookup culture. The women haven't developed the skills of being able to, get along with a man long term, longer than just in the bed.
To another, unable to tie down the men they desire to committed, long-term, monogamous relationships.
Translation. So basically, the problem is, okay, these women, they have guys that want to have sex with them, but the guy that she actually desires and the guy that she actually don't want her. So that's the problem that most women have. The man that they want doesn't want them. Because he's saying, okay, why should I pick you? Out of me having so many other choices, so many other women. I'm in the man. Like I said, the women, they want a guy who's 6 foot, 6-pack, packing, all the other good stuff, the other women want. He gonna say, okay, so why should I be with her? So yeah.
I don't know how I always end up in the exact same situation. It's always great. And I feel like these people I meet, I'm like, wow, like I'm finally clicking with somebody. And then it's always the same thing. They're not in a place where they are looking for a relationship.
Because you haven't showed him why he should commit to you. Just because you think he's cute and you give him some, he's saying, okay, so what benefit is she going to add to my life by me committing to her? How much more is my life going to be better by me being with her in a relationship versus me being by myself, where I could just deal with other women whenever I want and have as many women as I want? So, but the women aren't thinking about that, because they don't care about what men want. They just want what they want. So the problem is, if you don't know what men want and you don't care what men want, you're going to have a hard time getting what you want, which is the man to commit to you and be with you long term.
They have other things that are more important. And I'm just like I'm never good enough. Every single.
Or then the other thing is, okay, so these women, so they'll spend all that money and getting all that debt, going to school so they can get a good job, but they won't spend that kind of money in paying a dating coach. They won't spend that kind of money in paying a personal trainer, spending money on personal development. And if they actually did, they actually would show that they're different versus the average woman. The woman who actually spends money on self-improvement, that tells the guy that, okay, that she's coachable, she's willing to invest in herself, she takes care of her body, so she actually made an investment in those areas, and then that actually would make her stand, it definitely would give her a competitive advantage over the next beautiful woman.
Boy, I go on a date with. Yeah, I want a relationship. I'm just looking for the right person. I'm so loyal. I just want a relationship. We have a really good date and then I just don't hear from them again. Or I do for a couple of days and then they ghost. I've seriously fucking had enough. I'm going to be single for the rest of my life.
There was a time when if men wanted to have sex, they had to marry you. Whereas now, the price of sex is Netflix and chill. So the standards have changed, and we've allowed them to change because we wanted to prove that we could do it just as bad as the boys. And I think that is backfiring.
The result is a quite distorted sexual marketplace.
If you have more lax rules around casual sex before marriage and birth control, which means that you can have sex without fear of having children, that means that women can have sex with high.
And also the other thing that they're not talking about, though, is really like I said, especially a lot of times these career women, they don't want to be a wife. They pretty much want to be, like I said, they want the wedding, but when it comes down to being a wife, they don't want to do that. So that's the other thing that they're not talking about though. They want to pretty much, have fun and, and be a career woman and go on girl trips. So they don't want to live the life of what a wife actually does.
Value men who are perhaps higher value than they would usually have access to, which then skews their goals moving forward about who they want to be in a long-term relationship with.
Because when they were sleeping with these really attractive guys, they thought, okay, this person is attracted to me because I'm on his level, not knowing that men drastically reduce their standards when it comes to casual situations.
Yep, she's totally right. I've been saying that though. The problem is most guys will have sex for anything. One of my clients said something. She's so funny. He said that most guys will have sex with a lizard if you hold it long enough. So yeah, so most guys have a very low standard for having sex with anything, anybody. So that don't mean that he like you. So a lot of women think that, oh wow, I'm on this guy level because I had sex with this, hot guy or this good career guy, but he was just wanted you for the night.
And if you do have this experience with this guy and it was a fantastic experience and you're head over heels for him, you want to replicate that experience in the next sort of relationships you have. But if that guy that you're dating doesn't quite reach that standard, you're never going to be happy.
Men, on the other hand, are struggling not only to find long-term partners, but even to have sex at all. Sadly, many have become too apathetic and devoid of confidence to even bother trying.
I feel like possibly my self-esteem.
Yeah, so the average guy, it's this 55% of men are single and childless. Yeah, single and childless. And in America, and 69% of women have kids. This 69% has kids. They're single with kids. Let that sink in.
Esteem is like so low that I've subconsciously ruled out the possibility of ever like getting a girlfriend or whatever.
Generally speaking, the only people who are significantly benefiting from this state of affairs are the limited number of high-status men.
That top slice of playboys, they're having simultaneous relationships.
Yep, so especially in the black culture, that 20%, it's the 20% who are making most of the babies. So it's that guy it's that real rich guy, that guy, he's in and out of jail, but still, like a lot of black women find that guy attractive, with this thug love stuff though. And yeah, so those are pretty much, especially in the black culture, those are the kind of guys that are getting most of the women, or than just another guy that he knows women very well, so he's a good looking guy, so he just knows women so well. So yeah, those are pretty much the guys who are still being able to, to just get what they want out of this dating market despite everything that's going on.
Relationships all back to back. It's great for them in the short term. It's rubbish for the other men, and it's also rubbish for the women because you end up with women who actually really want to have loving, intimate, monogamous relationships and they don't feel like they can.
If other groups are in fact gaining from this condition, it's primarily those in the middle and upper classes.
Studies have suggested that hookup culture is in fact predominantly a middle class phenomenon. And the further you are up the socioeconomic scale, the more likely you are to be able to enjoy and, get something out of the dissolution of sexual norms. But the further down the socioeconomic scale you go, the more likely that is to result in chaotic lives, eking out an existence with 4 kids by 4 dads and a fly-by-night partner who beats up your children when you're not looking. It's not obvious to me that that's somehow intrinsically better than a slightly meh marriage to somebody you stop fancying after 10 years.
As things stand, loneliness and frustration reign in an increasingly atomized world. Our society is cultivating a densely populated underclass of men who are destined to remain penniless and alone their entire lives.
And those are the guys who cause problems because they're faced with possibly being zeros in the evolutionary race, and so they are willing to take big risks in order to catapult themselves up the status hierarchy and have a chance to get into the marriage and mating market.
And beyond the threat of violence is the problem of population collapse.
Probably the biggest myth that exists right now is this overpopulation myth, when in fact we have a population collapse problem. Like, people have no idea how fast the population is going to collapse.
If fewer people are reproducing, next generation you have fewer people to reproduce as fewer people are reproducing, and it...
The lifespan is increasing. That's the only reason why the population of Earth isn't plummeting, but it will plummet. The birth rate in the US has been below replacement rate since like 71 or 72. Japan actually went down by 600,000 people last year.
So you're saying people need to be having more kids?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you know a lot of people who have like no kids. Like, how many kids do you guys have?
I got no kids.
I mean, that we know of.
None of you guys have. What the fuck?
At the present rate, there'll be a striking absence of the young people necessary to uphold our society in 50 years' time. And so, if the mating crisis in our society isn't fixed, it may be a very dark road ahead.
Actually, so I'm gonna leave the original video in the description. So yeah, so pretty much like I always say, social media has changed everything. So yeah, so it definitely made things change, and also too the women are pretty much taught to just give the best years of their life to their career. So when they actually should be still in their early 20s, they should be focusing on spending more time and attention on toward getting that part of their life in order. To come down to dating and getting married, or just picking the right one. If they spend more time in that, doing that in their early 20s, and then instead of waiting until they get in their in the mid or late 30s or longer, they're gonna have better outcomes with men. So, all right, y'all, just hope you all enjoyed the video. So yeah, so I'm gonna link the original video in the description. So let me all know what you all think. So do you all think that the dating market is doomed because of now everything that's going on, or do you all think that it'll get better? Let me know in the comments. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And I love you all, and I'll see you all next time.